I'm going to inherit my husband's estate of $800K and this house, as we don't have children, so it's all mine, she said, as my sister-in-law proudly declared. My name is Claire, a 45-year-old part-time worker. I have two sons, one in his third year high school and the other is in his first year. My eldest son, who is taking the university entrance exam this year, has a dream of becoming a lawyer, so he has been studying hard. It seems that my eldest son has admired becoming a lawyer since he was little, perhaps influenced by my brother Wesley. Wesley is a lawyer, and a few years ago, he even had his own law firm with several lawyers working for him. My eldest son, who had watched Wesley since he was in elementary school, loved to study, and his grades were always good. Wesley was also happy to hear that my eldest son was pursuing a career as a lawyer, and he supported him. My eldest son always talked about it whenever he met Wesley. I'm going to become a lawyer just like Uncle Wesley. Wesley would laugh and respond, hurry up and become a lawyer and follow in my footsteps. Wesley is married but has no children. When he came to visit us, he would play with my sons, and they would be very friendly with him, and he would spoil them. My brother had a wife 10 years younger than him, but she was an eccentric or rather difficult woman who never came to our house, so we never talked to her on good terms. Wesley and I lost our parents early, and he stood in for them when I got married. After I was married, Wesley also tied the knot. When I learned Wesley was marrying a younger woman, my husband and I playfully teased him, but we were shocked by the displeased look on his bride's face when we met her. You'd expect her to be happy about getting married, but there she was, glaring at us with a frown. In front of Wesley and his wife, we'd say things like, "You two are a perfect match," but back at home, it was just my husband and me, and our true feelings would come out. Why would she look so unhappy when they're getting married? My husband seemed to agree, responding worriedly. She didn't seem like a very pleasant bride. Regardless, Wesley went ahead and married his fiancée, who was 10 years younger. Just before their marriage, Wesley bought a single-family home, so we took our young kids to celebrate. As expected from my brother, who runs a law firm, I was surprised by the magnificent house, but when I didn't see my sister-in-law, who had just gotten married, my husband jokingly told Wesley, "Did your wife already run off?" Of course it was just a joke, but seeing Wesley's stern face, we got nervous. Wesley explained that his wife often returned to her parents' home when something came up, and that day she was celebrating her mother's birthday and stayed over. Realizing we'd said something inappropriate, my husband felt down, but then Wesley spoke to us seriously. "If I can't have kids, would you let me adopt one of yours?" I thought Wesley was joking when he said such things, but he had a serious look on his face. It was so sudden that I couldn't respond, but my husband, laughing, replied, "Who knows what the future holds? Let's talk about it if it comes to that. If you want, you can adopt whichever of our kids you like." My husband didn't seem to take it too seriously, but I was concerned about the adoption, and even more so about whether Wesley's marriage was going well. I was worried about Wesley's marital problems but felt it wasn't my place to intervene. After that, my family and I would visit my brother at his home, and my brother would come to visit us, but it was always only my brother, and my sister-in-law would not show up. He didn't talk about her, and I avoided asking. It's been more than a decade since they married, and just as we had almost forgotten about his wife, our eldest son got into his dream law school. Wesley came over to celebrate and brought up the adoption again. Like I said before, could I adopt one of your kids? In the end, my brother and his wife were unable to have children, and once again wanted to adopt one of our children. The last time the topic came up, Wesley had just gotten married, so there wasn't a sense of urgency, but this time he seemed serious. My husband seemed to take it lightly and answered immediately. "How about our eldest who dreams of being a lawyer?" But it was a big decision that could change our sons' lives, and I was cautious. Even though Wesley was their uncle, I worried about how his wife would treat them. I ventured to ask my brother about this because I was worried that she might be wicked to my son, who was not her own child. "Is your wife in favor of getting an adopted child?" Wesley just gave a wry smile and said, "Don't worry about her. Everything's already been settled." I felt relieved to hear that things had been settled, but I couldn't make a decision right away, and decided to discuss it with my sons. I wanted to let my sons decide for themselves since they were already in high school. We didn't pursue the topic further that day, but a few days later, we received a call from Wesley's law firm. When I rushed to the hospital, the staff from his law firm looked worried. He had suffered a stroke at work and was unconscious. When I arrived at the hospital, the staff from Wesley's law firm left, but we couldn't get in touch with my sister-in-law. I tried calling her home, but got no answer, and I didn't have her cell number. Later, my husband and sons arrived at the hospital, but still no contact with my sister-in-law. Eventually, my younger son found Wesley's smartphone and managed to unlock it, finding my sister-in-law's cell number. When I called her from Wesley's phone, she answered angrily, "I told you not to call me anymore. I'm suing you." I started speaking cautiously, intimidated by her fierce demeanor. This is Claire, Wesley's sister. You're my sister-in-law, right?" Wesley has collapsed and been taken to the hospital. Realizing it was me, she replied more kindly, "Oh, sorry, I thought you were Wesley. What happened to him?" After I explained Wesley's condition and the hospital he was in, she responded almost happily, "I can't come to the hospital right now, I have things to do. But let me know if anything happens," and she hung up. I wondered what could be more important than her husband being in the hospital. Realizing she was unreliable, we decided to take care of Wesley ourselves. My eldest son, done with college entrance exams, visited Wesley daily instead of me. But Wesley remained unconscious and in critical condition, and his wife neither visited nor called. About a week after Wesley was hospitalized, I called her again. She answered promptly, almost cheerfully. "What happened? Did he pass away?" Her insensitive tone made me want to shout, but I held back. "Wesley is still alive. Why haven't you come to the hospital?" My sister-in-law retorted, as if to upset me, as I was responding with biting anger. "What can I do? I'm not a doctor or a prayer healer. I can't make him recover." Her flippant attitude infuriated me, and I hung up. I started to think that Wesley wanting to adopt one of my sons was because he and his wife were not getting along and had given up on having children. I recalled asking Wesley how he met her. He said they were introduced through a marriage agency. Maybe she married him because he was a lawyer and could provide a good life. I grew angrier at the thought, but when I discussed it with my husband, he said something even more brutal. If Wesley passes away like this, his wife will take all of his heirs' inheritance since they have no children. It seemed Wesley's recent earnest talk about adoption was about inheritance. I regretted not deciding on it sooner, but there was nothing I could do now. After Wesley left from the college acceptance celebration, I casually mentioned the adoption to my sons, and my younger son was excited to go. Unlike my eldest son, who has clear goals, my younger son seemed to think that being Wesley's adopted son would mean an easier life. I expected my eldest, who admired Wesley and aspired to be a lawyer, to want to go too, but he surprised me. As the eldest, I should take care of mom and dad, so I don't want to be adopted. I was happy but also felt the eldest would have been the best choice to take Wesley's place. I regretted not being able to proceed with the adoption process on behalf of unconscious Wesley. I didn't want his estate, but I didn't want to leave anything to my sister-in-law who seemed to be just waiting for him to die. When this happened, all I could do was pray for my brother's recovery, but he never recovered from his illness. A few days later, Wesley passed away, and I reluctantly contacted my sister-in-law. "Wesley has just passed away. Can we handle the funeral?" She responded brightly, who was waiting for news of his passing. "I'll leave it all to you. Don't even make me a pallbearer. I don't want to be bothered by all the greetings." You know what? I was about to explode with anger when she abruptly hung up. In the end, my husband and I organized the funeral. The staff from Wesley's law firm also helped. My husband worried about the future of the law firm, but Wesley had made solid arrangements. He was the lead attorney but had entrusted the firm's management to reliable people, so it would continue as a corporation without him. Many people attended Wesley's funeral, and the number of wreaths brought in showed his greatness once again. At the funeral, my sons helped out, but seeing influential figures like big company CEOs and politicians, my younger son was genuinely regretful. I should have become Uncle Wesley's adopted son. I didn't realize he was such an incredible person. My eldest son was dismayed by his words, but my husband and I could understand our younger son's feelings. I served as the chief mourner, but no one seemed to find it strange that my sister-in-law wasn't present. It seemed like only our family knew he was married. They hadn't had a wedding ceremony, just a honeymoon, so maybe even the relatives didn't realize. I even thought it would have been better if they hadn't married at all. It was frustrating to think that all of Wesley's assets might go to a wife who didn't even show up at his funeral. I regretted not having my younger son adopted by Wesley sooner. With the help of the staff from Wesley's law firm, we managed to successfully conclude the funeral. We invited everyone to Wesley's house for a meal to express our gratitude. Thanks to all of you, Wesley can rest in peace now. Just as everyone was feeling somber, my sister-in-law showed up wearing a flashy pink coat. She seemed to have timed her arrival for after the funeral. I confronted her. "What are you doing here now? Do you need something from us?" With a big smile, she announced loud enough for everyone to hear, "I'm going to inherit my husband's estate of $800K and this house, as we don't have children, so it's all mine," she said. To our surprise, the staff from Wesley's law firm burst into laughter. Our family looked on with puzzled faces, not understanding why the lawyers were laughing, but my sister-in-law glared at them and started yelling, "What's so funny? How rude." The lawyer answered her angrily, grinning, "Because you're not the president's wife anymore, are you? We know that the day before the president collapsed, the divorce was officially finalized as a result of divorce mediation." I was shocked by this new information and exclaimed, "What? You were divorced?" Looking at my sister-in-law, now glaring fiercely at the lawyer who revealed the truth. She glared at the lawyer who had spoken to her, clenching her back teeth in frustration. "Along with the divorce being finalized, you were also sued for alimony. Since the divorce was due to your affair, it's only fair." My sister-in-law glared at the lawyer and shouted angrily, "I don't have to pay alimony, do I? The person I would pay is gone." Despite her confident retort, the legal experts quickly counted, "Alimony claims are inheritable, so you'll have to pay it to Wesley's sister, Claire." That was the moment I realized I was Wesley's sole heir. With the divorce final and our parents gone, I was the only one left. My sister-in-law looked at me with a terrifying gaze, and I instinctively stepped back. Still not accepting the situation, she shouted at the lawyers, "Since we're divorced, I should get half of the assets, right?" One of the lawyers, with a look of disbelief, informed her, "When the divorce was finalized, you already received a settlement from Wesley, didn't you? We have the receipt. And this house, bought before your marriage, isn't part of the marital assets." I couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction seeing her arguments being shut down by the lawyers. Then, as if she remembered something, she said with a slight smile, "They still the life insurance. I must still be the beneficiary." Despite being surrounded by hostility, my sister-in-law remained calm, which was impressive. She confidently claimed that she had changed the beneficiary of Wesley's life insurance policy to herself when they got married. However, a lawyer immediately refuted this, saying, "Wesley was a meticulous man. He would have changed it back once the divorce was finalized." Prompted by this, I searched through Wesley's valuable documents and found the life insurance policy. When my sister-in-law saw this, she snatched the life insurance policy from me and looked at the beneficiary in a panic, but her shoulders immediately dropped in disappointment. When I got the insurance policy back from my sister-in-law and checked it, I saw that I was the beneficiary. Realizing she wouldn't receive anything, my sister-in-law blurted out her true feelings. "I married him thinking he was a wealthy lawyer, but I got so little. And now I even have to pay alimony. What a huge mistake." A stern lawyer responded. Wesley said the same. He regretted relying on a marriage agency and called it a big mistake. Wesley had never mentioned such things to me, but apparently, he had been open with his colleagues and subordinates. Unable to argue, my sister-in-law left his house dejectedly. Later, I learned she had to pay the alimony in installments, and having never worked seriously, she hastily started job hunting. However, she quickly quit and registered at a marriage agency again, seemingly in search of a wealthy husband. She managed to swindle money from a man for a supposed marriage, but he soon realized and reported her to the police. One of Wesley's lawyer colleagues informed me that my sister-in-law had been arrested for marriage fraud. I had gone to the lawyer's office to inquire about the unpaid alimony when this news came up. The lawyer told me with a resigned expression, "Since she's been arrested, receiving alimony might be impossible for a while." Honestly, I wasn't interested in the alimony. I was more satisfied knowing that my sister-in-law got what she deserved. I believed Wesley would have wanted her to face thorough investigation and a heavy sentence. Unexpectedly inheriting Wesley's estate, my family and I moved into his single-family house. We were all thrilled to move from our rented apartment to a single-family house. Now, our entire family has, in a way, succeeded Wesley. But my eldest son is studying harder than ever to become a lawyer. Seeing Wesley's colleagues and subordinates outsmart my sister-in-law seemed to further inspire him towards the legal profession. While we couldn't go through with the adoption, I hope my eldest son will carry on Wesley's legacy and become a lawyer as admirable as him. My younger son was the only one upset about inheriting everything, lamenting, "I should have been Uncle Wesley's adopted son, then I could have inherited it all." His half-joking remark was endearing.